Us over here in the West have gotten some pretty sweet Silent Hill stuff in the past. You got comic series, movies, plushies, keychains, whatever the fuck this is supposed to be. But all in all, we've been pretty lucky. But did you know that Japan has got some exclusive Silent Hill stuff? Well, they do, and I want to take a few minutes out of the limited time that you have on this earth to tell you about Japanese-only Silent Hill stuff. Imagine Silent Hill, but instead of games, make it words on paper, but with words I can't read because I am not Japanese. That is some bullshit, but hey, Japan got some novelizations of the first 3 Silent Hill games. Each of the books were written by, and I'm going to butcher this as per usual, Sadamu Yamashita, who I have never heard of before, and upon researching this bloke, I couldn't find any other work besides the Silent Hill books. The plot of the books follows that found in their respective games, and there has been a fan translation of the Silent Hill 2 book, because people are biased and didn't bother translating them in order. And there is currently a translation in progress of the first book. I am unsure whether there is a translation in the works for the third and the best entry in the series, Silent Hill 3, but I think there should be because, come on, it's Silent Hill 3. Each of the books also feature artwork from Team Silent art director, creature designer, and background designer Masahiro Ito. This adds a nice bit of visual flair to the novels while not relying on them to tell the story. It just allows the reader to properly visualize characters and monsters from the game that are featured in the books. All of the books follow the plot of the games very faithfully, but since it is unknown whether the writers of each game were involved, or if the author received any official story notes from them, they are generally considered as secondary sources. There are some interesting differences between the books and the games though. I won't go into many because spoilers, but I wanted to have a chat about a few. In the novelization for Silent Hill 1, Harry Mason's wife, Jodie, dies in a car crash, whereas in the game it is implied she died due to an illness. In the Silent Hill 2 book, there is a short prologue at the start which features Eddie and Laura. And when James first meets Angela in the cemetery outside of the town, he literally just walks away without talking to her. As I mentioned before, the Silent Hill 3 book hasn't been translated, but also there isn't much information surrounding the content of the book. But one little thing is that the novel reveals that Vincent's surname is Smith, which is fun. If you want to check out the fan translations, I will leave them in the description. But just a reminder, these are translations and may not represent the quality of the original work. But if you're looking for a Silent Hill fix but are sick of playing the video games, these books might be right up your alley. I bet you all thought we were done with novelizations. Nope! How about instead of novelizations of the rest of the games in the franchise, you get novelizations of the first 2 Silent Hill movies? Now, don't sound too excited, but yeah, there are book versions of the original Silent Hill movie, which I think is great by the way, and Silent Hill Revelations, which has the greatest jump scare of all time in it. I honestly wonder how they translated that amazing scene into the book. I honestly couldn't find any information about these, besides the first book was written by Paula Edgeworth and Osamu Makino, I think that's how you pronounce that. And the second book was written by Kiyomi Abe. Yep, cool, I haven't butchered that one either. I am just going to assume they followed the plot of the movies, and that is that. You now know they exist, so have fun with that information I guess, let's move on. We've got a fair few Silent Hill comics in the West, and I have the omnibus for those comics, and I've got to say, they are all terrible besides Anne's story, which is a tie-in comic to Downpour. By the way, Anne should have been the main character in Downpour, and her story should have been the plot of the game because it makes sense if you think about it. That is going to be an upcoming video, maybe, I don't know, I make a lot of these promises. But Japan did get some exclusive comics that were released on mobile phones. There were 2 comics released in Japan. The writer of the 2 comics was Hiroyuki Owaku. Oh God, I gotta stop butchering these names. Who worked in the first 4 Silent Hill games as a writer, and as the cherry on top, all of the artwork was done by Masahiro Ito. Both of the comics have not been translated, at least from what I can find, but someone has translated about the third of the first comic into English, so if you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description. The first comic was called Cage of a Cradle, which is a prequel to the first game. It focused on the character of Matthew, who was Lisa Garland's boyfriend, who was the nurse in the first game, and for those who keep asking me in the comments, also appears in the cutscene I play at the end of every video that I make. Matthew was recently come to the town of Silent Hill and accidentally crosses over into the other world. You don't really find out why. It also explores Lisa and Alessa's relationship as nurse and patient, which I think is way more interesting than whatever shit her boyfriend is up to. The comics also had little effects to make it a more interesting read by having pages accompanied by sounds and phone vibrations. I think this is a pretty cool way of making a comic more interactive on a phone. The second comic released in Japan in 2007 and was titled Silent Hill Double Under Dusk, which kind of sounds like a title of a pornography film. It focuses on a completely new story. It is about a man named Brian Dawson who, in classic Silent Hill fashion, has had a traumatic experience happen to him. His son, Ronnie, died, and Brian is just in heavy mourning. Brian meets a young woman named Lindsay, and in probably the dumbest decision they've ever made, the pair decide to go to Silent Hill. I am not one to victim blame, but taking a traumatized father to Silent Hill is an obvious recipe for disaster. But upon researching these comics, I stumbled across something glorious. Out there, in the distance, between the sickle and the hammer, another Silent Hill comic. One not released in Japan, but in Russia. Silent Hill White Hunter is a 6-page comic written and illustrated by Masahiro Ito. The comic came bundled with the Silent Hill Zero original soundtracks album and was released on January 1st, 2008, also known as Silent Hill Origins in the West. The story isn't about someone wandering into Silent Hill or anything like that, but it is religious in its theming. It's about an angel whose design is similar to the Slurper enemy in Silent Hill 3, who confronts a statuesque known as the White Hunter, hence the whole name of the comic thing. The White Hunter's design is nearly identical to Pyramid Head in Silent Hill 2, but the White Hunter's helmet is white, and instead of wielding a massive overcompensating blade, he has what looks like a large switchblade or box cutter that has a retractable blade. I said blade a lot in that. All of the artwork in the comics I've talked about today are fucking amazing, but I believe White Hunter has to be the most memorable. Silent Hill's music is some of the most memorable and important in all of video gaming. Akira Yamaoka has the ability to create music that can instill an intense feeling of loss or loneliness, or make the listener feel uncomfortable or in danger, and I absolutely love it. I could go on and on about how utterly fantastic the music is, but that isn't what this video is about. Instead, I'm going to talk about a collector's dream and something I'm extremely depressed about not owning: the Silent Hill Sounds box released in March 2011. What this absolutely beautiful thing is a complete collection of the soundtracks from the original Silent Hill to Shattered Memories contained on 7 discs. There is also a bonus 8th disc that contains unreleased music from Silent Hill the Arcade and various demos. It also comes bundled with an art book and a DVD featuring trailers for the games. I would fucking sacrifice a child if it meant that I could add this to my horror collection, and honestly, I think I'm gonna do just that. Now you'd think up here in the West we got all the Silent Hill games, but guess what? We didn't. Us filthy Westerners actually missed out on a Silent Hill game. Not only a Silent Hill game, but one on a portable gaming device made by some dudes called 910Do? Isn't it depressing, right? Isn't that sad we missed out? But that game was plain novel Silent Hill, released on the Game Boy Advance in March 2001. It is an adaptation of the original Silent Hill game, but they made it one of those visual novels. It offered 2 scenarios, which was not a feature available in the original game. The player could control Harry, just like the OG, but once they completed his scenario, they were able to play as Sybil. There was originally going to be a 3rd character, who was a young boy named Andy. His campaign was available, though it was through Mobile System GB, which was a short-lived Japanese-only service. Gameplay consisted of the standard visual novel stuff. Text would appear telling the story, and images of characters and locations would pop up to give the story a bit more life and visual variety. These stills were taken directly from the PlayStation game and changed depending on each location. Some of the images were not completely static and utilised simple effects such as flickering lights or falling snow, which gave the images more life and emulated the atmosphere of the original game. It even went as far to include brief video clips, but because of the technological limitations of the Game Boy Advance, the quality was pretty terrible and grainy, and they are rarely used. Throughout the game, the player would encounter situations where they would need to make a choice between 2 or more options, and mainly consisted of what Harry or Sybil should do next in a given situation, or whether to engage or hide from a monster. So it was also like a choose-your-own adventure book. Plain novel Silent Hill also emulated the original game's multiple endings. Depending on the decisions the player made throughout the game, this would not only affect the core game but the ending as well. There were 8 endings for Harry and 6 for Sybil, which is pretty cool and in the spirit of Silent Hill. Puzzles also existed, but were pretty simple and weren't too prominent throughout the game. Music and sound effects also played a pretty big role, but because it was a Game Boy Advance, they weren't as quality as the PlayStation counterpart. Overall, this thing sounds pretty fucking cool, and there is a translated version available online, so I will leave a link for that in the description as well, and hell, maybe one day I'll review it, I don't know, but if you want to watch a review about it, check out a video by ThorHighHeels. It's going to be in that description as well. And now for the greatest Silent Hill thing the West never got. Remember this thing? And how it felt like the final nail in the coffin for the Silent Hill franchise? Well, we didn't get it in the West, so I'm going to talk about it. And honestly, seeing a Silent Hill Pachinko machine would encourage me to gamble. The Silent Hill Pachinko machines were developed by a subsidiary of Konami Japan, Takasago, and was released on October 5th, 2015. Now when I think of a Pachi machine, I think of extremely depressing, emotionally driven and complicated storytelling layered with a variety of interpretations and meaning. So of course, the Silent Hill Pachi machine storyline is based off Silent Hill 2. The machine features characters from the game, including James Sunderland, who looks like a Metal Gear Solid boss, Mary, Maria, Laura, and Eddie, who looks like every bully in a Stephen King novel. The only character that's missing is Angela, which sounds weird, but I kinda understand. Her backstory and character doesn't really translate to this. It also features a soundtrack consisting of 22 songs and 7 creatures from the original game, but also included an exclusive creature named the Chariot. The creature is very large and his design resembles a horse-drawn carriage and has flesh from its arms and shoulders that stretches and forms into a long hood over its head, and had metal frames with a large pair of wheels attached to its rear. The Chariot is geared out with something that resembles a long, dual-shafted pole arm and looks like a giant tuning fork, and he likes to do spin attacks like Sonic to hurt people. Even though the Chariot only appears on a Apache machine, that doesn't mean it lacks any of that symbolism Silent Hill 2 is known for. We say hello to the Silent Hill fandom site once again, as they state that the creature could represent the 7th major arcana card in a tarot card deck, also named the Chariot. Its design is also similar to the graphic on the card. The Wikipedia page for the card said it carries several divinatory associations. Succor, Providence, also War, Triumph, Vengeance, Trouble, and when reversed, it means riot, quarrel, dispute, litigation, and defeat. I don't know how any of that is symbolic of James Sunderland, but I'm sure it represents something sexual. And I bet you didn't know there were more Silent Hill gambling machines. I sure as hell did until I researched stuff for this video, and now I do, and I even feel more depressed than usual. The new Silent Hill slot cabinet was announced in October 2019. The slot machine's release came conveniently after Pachinko machines received heavy regulations in Japan. It featured a 49-inch 4K Ultra HD display and launched with 2 Silent Hill themed slot machines. One is called Silent Hill Return, which was based on Silent Hill 3. I'm so sad to see what they've done to you.
This is way too gross.
The other was called Silent Hill Escape, which was based on Silent Hill Downpour. There isn't any story or stuff like that found in the Pachinko machines, so these slots are designed purely to take your hard-earned money without at least having the decency to tell us a tale. Honestly, that's about it for Japanese exclusive Silent Hill stuff. A lot of it's pretty cool, but I know none of them will make their way over to our western shores because Konami hates Silent Hill as much as James loves a sick wife. I tried to find as many as possible, but if you know of any more, please let me know and I might do a second video if there are enough to warrant said video. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know if you want me to look at other region exclusive content for games. And if you hated this video with all your guts and think I am the antithesis of disgusting, also let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that lovely stuff. If you want to support the channel further and help it grow, you can head over to my Patreon and contribute as little as $1. I have several tiers which grant patrons unique content such as every video one day early, a monthly Q&A video, and audio shout outs at the end of every video. But speaking of, big thanks to Kobe Ball, Devon John Malone, Sam Barclay, Slide of Tongue, and Walter for supporting the channel. It means so much to me and I'm eternally grateful. If any of you need a kidney, just let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. That rhymed. Fuck, I'm good.